When you have a client that comes to you and there's just a whole list of things that you want to work on, I think this is a temptation a lot of trainers fall into, is like trying to do everything at once.
Yeah.
But then I'll see this too, where, knowing that, you don't want to throw too much at once. I've seen trainers that, maybe don't do enough to start. Like, how do you find that balance of knowing how much to push a client when trying to, create behavior change? Like, I have this list of, there's just things I want to do with nutrition. There's just stuff I want to do with training. How do you find the balance of like, oh, maybe that was a little too much, or maybe I can push them a little bit more here?
Finding the right balance right out the gates takes a lot of experience. So let's forget about that for a second.
Sure.
You're not going to be able to find the perfect balance right out the gates. It's better to ask them to do less than it is to ask them to do more. Here's what happens when you ask them to do less than what they're capable of. They just nail it. Mm-hmm. Super easy. And then they'll come to you. So the way I would set that up is I'd say, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have you hit 20 grams of protein with every meal. That's what I want you to start with. That's your diet. And then we're in contact back and forth. 3 weeks later, it's like super easy piece of cake. In fact, the way I would set it up is I say, we're going to start with 20 grams of protein every single meal. When you feel like you're ready to take the next step, you let me know. And then I'll wait. I'll wait for them to tell me. Now, in the initial conversation process, I'm also reading the client. So when I ask them to do something, I'll use an example yesterday. Yesterday, I got on a coaching call with a woman. And the first thing I did, now this was a bit of a challenging situation, but this was somebody who's really tied to the scale, had initially lost a ton of weight, was really afraid of gaining weight, really afraid of getting the weight back. But the behaviors and things that they did to lose the initial 100 pounds, she was actually aware that like, this is not sustainable. Like, I need to find a way to do this so that it doesn't feel stressful for me, so I can maintain this for the rest of my life. Now, one of the things that I identified in the call was you need to stop weighing yourself, because those small fluctuations in weight are really setting you off. So I said to her, okay, I want you to stop weighing yourself. And I waited to see her reaction. And she's like, okay. And I said, okay, actually, you need to get rid of the scale, get it out of your house. So she's like, okay, so I'll do that. And I could tell she was on board, but a little challenged. Then we talked a little bit about her eating window. She was fasting. And I knew ideally what we would do with someone like that is I'd have her not fast anymore. I'm trying to move her towards a more healthy relationship with food. Her relationship with fasting was not one that was sustainable or healthy. So I brought it up, and I always ask permission. I always ask permission first. Can I make another suggestion? Always do that before. When you ask someone's permission, it's just much more powerful because the person says yes. Mm-hmm. So can I make another suggestion? She said yes. I said, I think I'd like to ask you to eat a really small breakfast in the morning. Do you think you could do that? And she's like, yes, maybe. And when I heard that maybe, I knew too big of a step. So we talked for a second. I said, you know what? I'm not going to have you end your eating window. We're not going to change your fasting for now. But when you're ready, when you think you're ready to start to tackle that a little bit, you let me know, and I don't care how long it takes. And we were done. So starting too slow is far better than going too far. Starting too slow, you start to see the signals, you get the feedback, and you see like, we can take another step. Like, let's take another step. Let's do this. Remember, the timeline for us is the rest of our life. The timeline for them may be 3 months or 6 months, which is fine. But for me, it's like, that's cool, but I want to make sure, I want to see if we can do this for the rest of our lives. I have no interest in getting you to get in shape in 6 months and then get out of shape, because that's a big fail. So my timeline is forever. So too slow is perfectly fine. Too fast, well, that's what crushes people. That's what gets people to fail again and again. And if you look at the statistics on how many times people try and then stop trying, every single time somebody has a big failure, every time they go on a fitness plan and a diet plan and they lose weight and then they gain it back, that's the fail. Every time they do that, each time is essentially taken away from ever trying again. And at some point, people just go, I give up. I'm not doing this anymore.
How do you handle the conversation with a client that you're doing that, you're starting pretty slow and they want to move faster? Like I was just having a conversation yesterday with one of our coaches, and he has a client that chronically overtrained, undereats. He started her, I think, on 2 days of MAPS Anabolic or something like that, which for her was, scaling back quite a bit. And after one workout, she was ready. She's like, I'm ready to do more.
Yeah.
I was like, well, hold on. Like, let's slow down a bit.
Yeah.
How do you handle that conversation with the client where you're trying to explain to them what you're doing?
Yeah, no, listen, I love how excited you are. I love the fact that you want to keep doing more. I need you to trust me right now. Trust the process. Let me show you some results. And then we'll take it from there. But this is going to work so well. I just need you to trust the process. So I'm asking for trust. I'm emphasizing like this is going to work. Stick to it. In fact, if we do more, we're actually going to slow ourselves down. Do you want to slow things down? No, I don't. Okay, let's just start here. Trust me. I have a great example of that. A client that hired me who now is my business partner, Doug. When Doug hired me as a client, he had already been working out. He had a long history of exercise. And when I told him we're going to train twice a week, he was like, what? Shouldn't I be coming at least 4 days a week? And I'm like, no. Let's go 2 days a week. Let me show you some results, and then we'll take it from there. And of course, once he saw the strength gains and he saw the progress, like he was totally bought in. Now, I could have, as a trainer, been like, you're going to work out with me 4 days a week. I mean, it's more money for me, right? I'm going to train you twice as much every single month. That's way more sessions per week. But I would have lost Doug, or potentially would have lost Doug as a client. But instead, I showed him, asked him for that trust. Once he saw it, it was like, he's totally bought it. The other thing too, when you have someone that chronically overtrains, you communicate that the challenge is not in working out more. The challenge for you is going to be working out less. So the things that, like, you hired me to coach and guide you, and I'm trying to guide you, and it's going to be challenging for you. Not because I'm telling you to work out a lot. For some people, that's the challenge, is to me to get them to work out. For you, the challenge is going to be to work out an appropriate amount. And right now, this is what's appropriate. And I know it's hard, but that's why you hired me. Are you ready to do this? Yes, I am.